Imagine for a second tracking a drop in your nightly sleep down to the exact decimal, like watching it slip from 7.7 hours to exactly 6.1 hours.
Right, which is highly specific.
Oh, incredibly specific. And instead of just, blaming a stressful week at work or maybe staring at your phone too late, you trace that entire collapse back to a handful of pumpkin seeds.
It sounds wild when you say it like that, but
Right. But today, we are looking at an absolute masterclass in treating the human body and mind like a highly tunable machine. So welcome to the deep dive.
Thank you. And honestly, it really is a remarkable level of self-quantification because, well, most of us just kind of drift through our weeks, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We're just vaguely aware that we feel a bit tired or maybe a bit sore. But the source material we are diving into today takes the complete opposite approach.
There's no guessing.
Exactly. No vague feelings here. Only data, feedback loops, and these really precise micro adjustments.
Which is why we are welcoming you, the listener, to an exploration of what it actually takes to build a resilient, optimized life amidst all the chaos of daily friction.
The everyday stuff that normally derails us.
Exactly. And our source for this deep dive is a meticulously detailed personal journal published today, July 12, 2026. It is titled Health, Wellness, and Discipline Year 2026, Week 28 Review.
By an author named Eng.
Yes, by Ang. And we aren't just reading someone's diary here.
No, not at all. And we should clarify for everyone listening, this isn't just a journal entry about, feelings. We are really analyzing an ecosystem today.
A biological and mental ecosystem.
Right. We are going to see how a seemingly random array of variables, from eating specific fish to writing complex functional code, how all of that works together to keep a person grounded when things inevitably start going wrong.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because looking at a system this detailed, it can be a little intimidating at first glance.
It really can be. It's a lot of data.
So if we want to understand how Ang maintains this kind of discipline, we have to look at the bedrock of the entire operation first.
Which is always sleep and physical health. The author explicitly notes that this proactive focus on the physical body is the absolute foundation.
Right, it's the anchor for everything else.
Exactly. It's the foundation for their long-term resilience and daily energy. You simply cannot optimize your high-level hobbies or your work output if your biological hardware is crashing.
Which brings us right to the week's data and, well, that pumpkin seed anomaly I mentioned earlier.
The famous pumpkin seeds.
Right. So Ang targets 6, 7, or 8 hours of sleep daily. But in week 28, there is this significant drop. The average falls from 7.7 hours down to 6.1 hours.
That's a big hit.
It is. And it's accompanied by 2 days of highly fragmented sleep. Now, my first instinct, if I'm being honest, would just be to grab an extra coffee and complain about it to anyone who would listen.
As most of us would. Just power through it.
Yeah. But Ang identifies the specific variable that changed. They stopped eating pumpkin seeds, which on the surface sounds crazy.
It sounds almost absurdly specific to an outside observer, sure. But it actually makes perfect biological sense when you understand the mechanics of what they remove from their diet.
So what exactly is in a pumpkin seed that causes a sleep crash?
Well, pumpkin seeds are incredibly rich in magnesium. And magnesium is a crucial mineral that physically induces relaxation in muscle fibers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and on top of that, it plays a really significant role in regulating the body's sleep-wake cycle, primarily interacting with melatonin.
So if we think of the body's daily routine as, like, a game of Jenga.
Oh, I like that.
You carefully pull out this tiny, unassuming block called pumpkin seeds. And suddenly the muscle relaxation block wobbles, the circadian rhythm shifts, and the entire 7.7 hours of sleep tower just comes crashing down.
That is the perfect analogy, because it really is a delicate balance. And to make this particular Jenga tower even more unstable, Eng wasn't just dealing with bad sleep.
Right, the journal mentions pain too.
Exactly. The journal notes a relapsed knee injury and significant back pain caused by muscle spasm.
Which makes the loss of that muscle-relaxing magnesium even more of a double whammy.
Precisely. You're losing the exact chemical your body needs to ease those spasms. The author treated these physical ailments with strength recovery training, daily heat pad sessions, and massaging.
Which is very proactive.
It is. But what is truly vital to take away from this section is the mindset applied to the breakdown. It's a completely blameless, scientific approach to a personal setback.
I have to push back a little here, though.
Sure, go ahead.
Because I can hear you listening right now thinking, wait a minute. Tracking a sleep drop to the decimal, isolating a specific seed as the variable.
It sounds like a lot.
Right. Isn't this just a bit obsessive? I mean, it sounds like a massive amount of mental overhead just to exist on a Tuesday.
It's a totally fair critique. And, it absolutely would be obsessive if the tracking was the end goal.
Okay, so what is the goal then?
The tracking is just a tool to establish a baseline. When you have baseline data, it allows for immediate course correction.
Ah, I see.
Because Aang knew exactly what changed in their routine, they didn't have to spend 3 weeks feeling exhausted, wondering what was wrong. They didn't have to try 10 different internet fads to fix it.
The data actually removes the anxiety of the unknown.
Exactly. The solution isn't guilt. It's simply grabbing the heat pads and planning to resume the magnesium supplement to fix the circadian rhythm.
So the tracking isn't the burden. The tracking is what frees you from the burden of guessing. I really like that.
It's liberating, in a way.
But obviously, fixing the sleep chemistry is completely useless if the physical body doesn't have the right fuel to repair that relapsed knee and those back spasms.
Right, you need the building blocks.
So how did the lack of sleep and the physical pain force Aang to change their daily movement and their diet?
Well, this is where we really see the concept of resilience put into practice. Despite the pain, and despite what they log as unforeseen incidents that caused chaotic travel this week.
Because life happens.
Right, life always gets in the way. But Aang still maintained a daily average of 6,009 steps.
Which is right in the middle of their target range of 4,500 to 8,000 steps.
Yes, right in the pocket.
I want to highlight the realism here for you listening. Aang didn't hit a personal best this week. They were injured.
They were hurt and tired.
Yeah, but they didn't default to zero. They just held the line. And knowing the knee is an issue, they planned to pivot.
Which is the smart move.
The journal notes a plan to buy proper strength training equipment and to revisit swimming, which, is a classic zero-impact exercise to save the joints.
They are protecting the baseline. And while they hold the line physically, they are making these incredibly deliberate tweaks to the fuel going into the machine.
Let's talk about the fuel, yeah.
So their weight basically flatlined this week. It moved a fraction of a fraction, from 69.96 kilograms to 69.89 kilograms.
Basically a rounding error.
Exactly. But to support the recovering body, they shifted their intermittent fasting schedule and their macronutrient ratios.
Let's look at those specific diet adjustments, because they are super precise. They resumed eating 2 meals a day, moved dinner to an earlier time, and transitioned from a 2-to-1 ratio to a 2-to-1 ratio of plants to protein to carbs.
Right. They upped the protein.
Yeah, and bumping up the protein makes sense for muscle spasms, but they also log a very specific expectation. They plan to eat 2 or 3 sardine or fish meals per week.
Which is such an interesting detail.
Why sardines? I mean, that's not just a random craving, right?
No, it's a highly functional choice. Sardines are packed with omega-3 fatty acids, and omega-3s are powerful natural anti-inflammatories.
Ah, for the knee.
Exactly. If you have a relapsed knee injury, you need to lower systemic inflammation. By shifting the ratio to 2-to-1, they are bringing in more protein to repair the back muscles and utilizing the omega-3s from the fish to cool down the knee joint.
And we see this tight control in the rest of the cooking they log, too. Things like regular oatmeal, soft-boiled eggs, cooked salads, miso noodle soup with vegetables.
It's very clean.
It's highly predictable fuel.
What's fascinating here is the author's hypothesis about why they were forced to make these dietary changes in the first place.
Oh, right. The connection back to the sleep.
Yes. They note that the degraded sleep quality from the missing magnesium might have been a significant factor affecting the diet's effectiveness overall. They showed incredible self-awareness there.
Because you can't out-diet bad sleep. The systems are intimately connected.
They really are. One always drags the other down.
But, dealing with chronic back pain, a bad knee, and unpredictable travel chaos that requires more than just a good bowl of miso soup.
It requires a lot of mental fortitude.
If your physical foundation is shaky, you need a serious mental anchor to keep the whole operation from derailing.
You do. A chaotic external environment requires a highly structured internal mind. Which brings us to the author's approach to mental health, specifically their meditation practice.
Now, when you hear the word meditation, you probably picture someone sitting in a quiet room cross-legged for, like, an hour of pure silence.
Right, the classic monk on a mountain image.
Exactly. But Aang's approach is radically different. They log their sitting meditations in tiny, almost microscopic increments, 1, 2, or 3 minutes.
It's micro-mindfulness.
Yes, micro-mindfulness. And they don't just stop there with the sitting. They combine these micro-sessions with walking meditations and a practice called mental noting, while just doing everyday chores.
Like running errands or raking leaves.
Yeah, managing gardening substrates, just totally normal stuff. Through all of this friction, the author describes their mental state simply as stoic as usual.
And if we look closely at this habit, it completely demystifies how mindfulness actually works in a demanding life.
How so?
Well, mental noting is a technique where you simply label your thoughts or physical sensations as they happen. It allows you to detach from them rather than being consumed by them.
So you're just observing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Doing this while raking leaves or running chaotic errands, it's a highly practical way to defragment the brain in real time.
I have to ask you, listening to this right now, have you ever skipped meditating? Or maybe skipped a workout because you thought, well, I only have 2 minutes, it's not even worth doing.
Oh, I've done that so many times.
We've all been there. But Eng's routine proves the exact opposite. Frequency trumps duration. Doing a 1-minute reset 3 times a day builds a much stronger baseline than forcing yourself to sit still for an hour every Sunday and just hating every minute of it.
It's about creating frequent, low-friction off-ramps for your stress.
Off-ramps, yeah, I love that.
Because if you are constantly clearing the cache in your brain through mental noting, stress doesn't have the chance to compound into a full-blown crisis.
It's also interesting to note what they feed their brain during downtime. The journal mentions reading fiction sporadically, but they admit to stalling on a specific book about the 3 highs.
Right, that book.
I'm assuming that refers to the classic metabolic syndrome markers.
Yes, the 3 highs is a pretty common term for high blood pressure, high blood sugar, and high cholesterol.
Which makes total sense. I mean, for a person who is obsessively tracking macronutrient ratios and holding the line at 6,000 steps with a bad knee, a clinical book on the 3 highs might just be incredibly dry reading.
They don't need it.
Right, they already have the preventative maintenance covered.
Exactly. The preventative systems are completely locked in at this point.
So we have the sleep chemistry diagnosed, we have the diet adjusted for inflammation, the mental anchor is secured through micro-mindfulness. Where does all this meticulously managed energy actually go?
What's the output, right?
Yeah, what is the output of this optimized system?
Well, it goes into what they call their projects and hobbies. But I have to say, the output in this section reads a lot more like a tech startup's rigorous engineering roadmap than, a casual weekend review.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Eng is writing 3 posts daily. Let that sink in. 3 posts every single day.
It's a staggering amount of volume.
It really is. And because that is such a massive amount of output, they are constantly building custom digital tools to optimize the writing workflow itself, like coding automatic formatting scripts and image processing tools, but that is just the warm-up.
The technical depth here is substantial. Even in a week plagued by injuries and unforeseen travel, they are actively hopping through different GitHub repositories.
Right, just casual coding.
Right. They note plans to update their continuous integration, or CI, to support Elixir 1.0 and Erlang OTP 29 dependencies.
Wow.
And on top of that, they're updating personal pet projects using Python console tools and the programming language Haskell.
Let me throw a theory at you, because if you read that list to the average person, it sounds like a grueling second job.
Oh, absolutely.
Erlang OTP 29 isn't just basic coding. That is complex, heavy-duty back-end software architecture. And Haskell and Elixir. These are intensely logical, functional programming languages that require a massive amount of mental rigor.
They are notoriously difficult.
So why would someone use highly demanding, complex software architecture as a hobby? Is it just a forced flow state to distract from the physical pain?
Well, a flow state is certainly part of it. But neurologically, it is actually a form of active recovery.
Wait, really? Active recovery?
Yes. It seems deeply counterintuitive that writing complex Haskell code would prevent burnout. But burnout often happens when we are grinding the exact same neural pathways day in and day out with the same emotional or physical stressors.
So because the coding requires a completely different type of thinking, it acts as a brake.
Precisely. It activates entirely different problem-solving centers in the brain.
Oh, wow. That makes a lot of sense.
When Eng shifts from dealing with the unpredictable physical stress of a knee injury and chaotic errands to the highly structured, perfectly logical world of updating an Erlang dependency, it gives those fatigued emotional pathways a complete rest. The code compiles, or it doesn't.
It's a controlled environment.
Exactly. It's safe, logical territory.
It's a puzzle with a definitive answer. Unlike, a sudden muscle spasm. That makes perfect sense. But Eng's creations aren't just limited to the digital realm. hiding behind a keyboard.
No, they're very hands-on too.
This drive to optimize, to fix things, extends directly into the physical dirt of their environment.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the physical environment always reflects the state of the mind. And the physical world is just another dynamic system to be maintained, nurtured, and optimized.
The sheer variety of hands-on physical projects in this single week is exhausting just to read.
Just looking at the list makes me tired.
Right. In the garden, they are managing 4 new workspaces. They are germinating seeds, setting up a plant rack, and actively managing substrates.
Basically the foundational soil and nutrients for the plants.
Right. And sure, they got stalled slightly by heavy downpours and the bad knee, but the momentum is clearly there.
And moving inside the house, the home improvement list is just as steady. Planning curtain installations, getting ready to do tile grout work on the front yard balcony, and a very specific daily practice decluttering 1 item per day.
I really want to zero in on that. Decluttering 1 item per day, because it sounds so insignificant.
It does sound small.
Throwing away 1 old pen or an expired coupon on a Tuesday, it feels like it achieves nothing. But it reminds me of walking with a tiny pebble in your shoe.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, 1 pebble might not stop you from walking.
Yeah.
But it creates a tiny bit of friction with every single step.
It wears you down over time.
Exactly. So decluttering 1 item a day is like stopping to remove 1 pebble. It slightly reduces the visual and mental friction of your daily movement. It frees up just a little bit more mental bandwidth, compounding over time.
That's a great way to look at it. You are continuously removing friction from the system.
Just slowly cleaning the machine.
And we see this exact same patience and detail orientation in the fish keeping section.
Oh, the fish.
Yes, managing a yellow-blue rack, breeding dwarf cichlids, allocating sponge filters, and planning a new outdoor pond for the backyard balcony.
That is no small task.
Not at all. Breeding fish requires an incredibly tight tolerance for water chemistry and temperature. It reinforces the exact same discipline we saw in the 2:1 diet ratio and the complex Haskell coding segments.
It's all the same muscle. Whether it's balancing the water for a cichlid or balancing a software dependency, it's about paying attention to the parameters.
Exactly.
And when technology forces those parameters to change, Ang's reaction is just brilliant.
You're referring to the forced mobile phone upgrade?
Yes. The photography section notes that they were forced to upgrade their mobile phone because legacy operating system apps were failing.
So annoying.
Now, we all know the absolute rage being forced to buy a new phone when the old one worked perfectly fine. Most people would just complain about it for a week.
Oh, I would be complaining for at least a week.
Same. But Ang immediately analyzes the new variable.
Right, they just adapt.
Exactly. They look at the new phone, realize it has much better macro photography capability, which is the ability to take extreme close-ups. And instantly, they pivot.
They lean into it.
They start hunting for external macro lenses to attach to the phone to push that specific capability even further. A forced hardware upgrade isn't a disaster. It's just a new parameter.
It's a literal opportunity to view the world closer up.
It is the ultimate adaptive mindset. A disruption to the system is immediately converted into an avenue for curiosity.
Which is such a healthy way to approach friction.
So what does this all mean? We've just walked through an incredibly dense, quantified week of a person's life.
A very busy week.
We've gone from the sleep-inducing magnesium of pumpkin seeds to the anti-inflammatory omega-3s in sardines. We've moved from 1-minute walking meditations to updating back-end Erlang code dependencies, all the way to breeding cichlids and hunting for macro lenses.
It's quite the journey.
So what is the ultimate takeaway for you, the person listening to this right now?
Well, the lesson here certainly isn't that you need to suddenly learn functional programming languages or start weighing your plant-to-protein ratios to be a productive human being.
Oh, God, no. I think we'd all drive ourselves crazy trying to copy this exactly.
Right. The true takeaway from Ang's Week 28 review is that a well-informed, resilient life is built on constant, curious iteration.
And curious iteration, I love that phrasing.
It is about taking the time to measure what actually matters to you. And just as importantly, it is about maintaining objectivity and forgiving yourself when those unforeseen incidents and relapse injuries inevitably occur.
Taking a proactive, analytical approach to your own life turns daily friction into a puzzle to be solved, rather than a heavy burden you just have to blindly carry around.
Exactly. It's data, not a judgment.
When your sleep drops to 6.1 hours, you don't panic. You look for the missing variable. When your knee flares up, you don't stop moving. You just change the movement and adjust the fuel. You hold the line.
Which brings us to a fascinating concept that really underpins this entire journal entry. Something rooted in physics known as the observer effect.
Okay, I have a feeling this ties it all together. What is the observer effect?
In physics, the observer effect states that the mere act of observing a phenomenon fundamentally changes the phenomenon itself.
Okay, so you can't watch something without changing it.
Right. You cannot measure a system without altering its behavior. And we have just spent this time analyzing a meticulously kept personal journal. Aang is observing their own daily life with incredible precision.
So the observation itself is changing Aang.
Exactly. Which raises a crucial question for you to mull over as we wrap up today's deep dive.
Let's hear it.
Does the mere act of writing down your habits, your sleep, your steps, and your mood every single week subconsciously force you to become a better, more resilient version of yourself? Because you know the record is being kept, do you make the micro adjustments you would otherwise ignore? Think about your own life right now. If you knew you had to sit down and write your own perfectly honest Week 28 review this coming Sunday, what would you do differently today?
What a question. Would you skip that 1-minute meditation if you knew you had to log it? Would you let the sleep tower fall, or would you figure out exactly which block needs to go back in? Something to really think about as you go about your week.